On the eve of Halloween, a company client urgently requested a delivery back to China. As chief purser, I was in the cargo hold doing a final inventory check. As soon as I entered, I heard the sound of the blast doors locking and the power being cut off. I desperately called for help, but the oxygen was getting thinner and thinner. I could only open the emergency cabinet, but it was completely empty, just as I was about to suffocate and pass out. Laughter came from the intercom, and my pilot boyfriend joked. Even the experienced and unflappable chief purser Maya has moments where she's helpless and waiting to die. Another soft, delicate female voice followed up with mockery. Sister Maya, you look so fat in this surveillance footage. The title of perfect flight attendant this year is definitely mine. It turned out they had been ignoring my calls for help all along. I was silent, and I walked directly to the tail end of the cargo hold, pretending to open the sealed silver container, the 200 million yuan antique porcelain. In my oxygen-deprived state, my head was dizzy, but my hand hesitated not at all as it covered the container switch. To prevent oxidation, the antique porcelain had undergone special sealing treatment before being placed in the cargo hold. My boyfriend Julian roared from the intercom. Maya, are you crazy? Though my head was swimming, my voice was remarkably crisp and clear. You forced me to this. Flight attendant Stella's voice trembled. Sister Maya, this is no joke. Then when you were joking with my life, why didn't you think about knowing when to stop? I replied coldly. Julian snapped. Come on Maya, stop acting tough and threatening people. That's 200 million yuan worth of goods. You couldn't afford to pay for it even if you sold yourself. I'm warning you one last time. Take your filthy hand off or I'll get you fired from the company as soon as we land. I scoffed and even kicked the container a couple of times with my foot. I heard that these 200 million yuan worth of antique porcelain took the effort of 10,000 people, scouring the globe to find them. I ran my hand over the waybill on the container. I wrote this waybill. Of course I know I can't afford to pay for it. I could hear Julian and Stella breathing rapidly on the other end of the intercom. Knowing their personalities, they were probably terrified at this point. After all, this shipment was the highest value item our company had transported in its 50-year history. Our boss had pledged his head to guarantee that it would arrive safely. If anything went wrong, we'd all be eating jail food for the rest of our lives. Stella sobbed and pleaded, Sister Maya, you've misunderstood. We just wanted to play a Halloween prank on you. After all, you're usually good-tempered and never hold grudges, so we didn't take it too seriously. We didn't expect you to be such a bad sport. Julian, who was next to her, didn't dare to hesitate and immediately apologized. Maya, we were wrong. We'll open the door for you in a moment. Put your hand down first. If something happens to this, don't even mention your job. You couldn't afford to pay it back even if you bankrupted yourself. I sneered. The lack of oxygen had already made my hands and feet numb. They were just talking and not doing anything on the other end of the intercom, clearly trying to stall until I died. You think I'm stupid? I directly placed my hand on the switch. Anyway, I have nothing to lose. I'll drag you down with me even if I die. 2 exclamations came from the intercom. I curled up the corners of my mouth in a mocking smile and looked sharply at the surveillance camera. The communicator on my shoulder works 24 hours a day, and its recording function has already recorded everything you two have said and done. Do you really think you can escape responsibility if something happens? After saying that, I gave the surveillance camera a provocative smile and held up 5 fingers to begin counting down. 5, 4, 3, 2. Stop! Julian and Stella shouted in broken voices. Maya, don't get excited, we'll open it right away. Julian was pulling on his hoarse voice, his voice trembling constantly. On the other end of the intercom were the hurried and anxious breaths of the two of them. I was getting a headache from the lack of oxygen. To stay awake, I bit my tongue without hesitation. The taste of blood in my mouth forced me to hang on. In the gradually blurring vision, there was no sign that the cargo hold's blast doors were opening. Julian! I roared weakly. I was answered by Stella's sobbing. Sister Maya, the cargo hold door can only be unlocked twice per flight. The third time requires sending a signal to get authorization. We didn't do it on purpose either. Why don't you? Hang on a little longer. Mixed in the background noise was Julian snickering. Maya, we're not standing by and watching you die. Blame the system mechanism. Make sure your communicator records this clearly. The string of tension in my heart was about to break. My breathing was getting more and more rapid. You two bitches clearly did it on purpose. Sister Maya, why are you slandering people? Stella said with a sob, feigning weakness and hurt. We've already sent the signal. Just wait a little longer. My heart sank. Even if they sent a signal, it would take half an hour to get a response. And I couldn't last that long. On the other end of the intercom, Stella suddenly chuckled, the contemptuous laughter piercing me. Sister Maya, since we're idle anyway, let's talk about something real, shall we? Like which aspects I should focus on when reviewing for next month's flight attendant exam? You're the one who holds the exam questions, don't tell me you don't know. The end of her sentence rose with a threatening tone in every word. I clenched the intercom tightly, my knuckles white, grinding my teeth and saying, a fool like you could tear the book apart and still be at the bottom. Don't waste your effort. Stella was enraged. On the other end of the intercom came a shrill scream, and a muffled thud of something being smashed. I slammed my hands over my ears and my knees buckled, nearly falling over. Stella had completely torn off her mask, her tone filled with hatred. Maya, you think I'm being nice, don't you? Just because I'm giving you a little leeway. Nothing to lose? What about the old director of the orphanage you treat like your own mother? If you dare ruin my plans today, I'll ruin her reputation tomorrow. She's not fit to sit in the director's seat after raising a wolf in sheep's clothing like you. I bit down on my back teeth in disbelief, my whole body trembling violently. I had only mentioned those feelings of inferiority to Julian. I never imagined that the sincerity I had offered would become a sharp blade stabbing me in the back. The next moment Julian sneered. I just went to the cabin to report to the VIP clients, saying that you were working diligently and constantly in the cargo hold to watch over the porcelain. I also said that because you didn't pay attention to reporting when you entered, it caused us to accidentally lock the blast doors. I'm already helping you apply for unlocking. The client said that we were working diligently and gave us each a 10,000 yuan bonus after landing. My face was pale, and boundless hatred surged in my heart. That guy was spouting nonsense, shirking his responsibility, while putting the blame on me with the excuse of not paying attention. I couldn't wash myself clean even if I jumped into the Yellow River. The furious emotion made my breathing more intense. In the sealed cargo hold, there was hardly any oxygen left, and the despair of suffocation enveloped me. But the desire to survive forced me to desperately shake my head, summoning my reason. I gritted my teeth, closed my eyes, enduring the shame in my heart, and raised my head to beg into the surveillance camera. Let me go. I beg you. All I could hear were the two of them laughing shamelessly. Sister Maya, I thought you had such a hard backbone. Turns out you admit defeat so readily. As soon as Stella finished speaking, Julian next to her echoed with ridicule. It's rare to see you so obedient, so I'll tell you the truth too. I didn't prepare for the engagement banquet at all. I used the money you gave me to buy the position of chief purser for Stella. It was like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. That money was all my savings from all these years. Given to him because of trust. Returned with betrayal. Sister Maya, so to speak, I should thank you properly and in my next life I'll definitely treat you to the best. Stella's laughter carried contempt and triumph. And Julian next to her chimed in with sarcasm. Maya, if you had agreed to be a housewife earlier, why would we have ended up like this? The string in my heart snapped completely. So from the beginning, they just wanted me dead. At that moment, a red light flashed beside the security door. It was an emergency light. Headquarters received a signal, confirming if anyone was trapped in the cargo hold. I moved my leg to lunge towards Hope. As long as the emergency light was extinguished, the door would open. But the next second, I fell heavily to the ground, weak and powerless. Julian, quickly help me control the lights and reply to headquarters. Otherwise, I'll immediately upload all the recordings in the communicator. I warned, enduring the severe pain in my head. But all I got in return was Julian's sneer. You really think I'm stupid? Your intranet account password is my birthday. After I logged in just now, I immediately deleted all the audio and video recordings in the communicator. My trust, once again turned into a sharp blade, stabbed fiercely into my heart, a bloody, painful mess. Enveloped in despair, my desire to survive grew stronger. I used all 4 limbs, struggling to crawl forward. The cold laughter of 2 spectators kept coming from the walkie-talkie. I had crawled halfway, almost fainting, when I suddenly felt a cold air beside my arm. It was a large freezer for frozen seafood. My eyes lit up instantly, and hope emerged from the ground again. "What are you doing, Maya?" Julian was obviously anxious, seeing me bury my head in the freezer, greedily and rapidly gulping air, and gradually regaining vitality. Julian raged on the walkie-talkie. "Fine, Maya, since you're taking a gamble, then don't blame me for going all out." I froze, looking up at the ventilation outlet slowly opening in the ceiling, with white poisonous gas constantly pouring in. Julian had actually activated the cargo hold's defense system. If I continued to inhale the poisonous gas for 10 minutes, I would definitely die. I didn't get angry, instead I laughed. My mind was exceptionally clear because of the fresh oxygen. I calmly walked to the box containing the porcelain bottles. "Maya." "What? What are you going to do?" Panic immediately surfaced on the other end of the walkie-talkie. "I'm telling you, I'm giving you one last chance. Kneel down and kowtow to beg for mercy, and I can stop the release of the poisonous gas." "Heh." I sneered, looking up and staring at the monitor, my face full of ridicule and disdain. "See you in hell." I pressed the switch. With the cabinet door rising, the special seal on the box broke, and shards of the preserving shell on the porcelain bottles scattered in all directions. "Ah, Maya, how dare you?" The heart-wrenching roars of the 2 people came from the other end of the walkie-talkie. Splattering shards cut bloody marks on my face. With a face full of blood, I stared straight into the monitor camera and laughed maniacally. "Everything is of your own making." The alarm sound drowned out the 2 people's frantic roars, and the entire plane descended into chaos. The moment the cargo door opened, several figures rushed in, led by Julian and Stella. Both of them looked panicked, their faces already pale with fright. The other security guards were roaring, holding their heads. My whole body began to convulse. The poisonous gas and lack of oxygen had brought me to the brink of collapse. I held on, locking eyes with Julian. The despair and resentment in his eyes filled me with delight. "You crazy woman. You've ruined us all. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Julian pounced like a wolf, ostensibly to teach me a lesson, but in reality, to snatch my communicator. But the next second, alarms sounded outside, and airport police quickly surrounded the plane. When I was led out of the plane in handcuffs, I was still clutching the communicator tightly in my hand. Out of the corner of my eye, Julian and Stella's pale faces were full of panic and guilt. Suddenly, a roar rang in my ears. "You jinx! I'll kill you! You jinx! I'll kill you!" A client with bloodshot eyes rushed over, grabbing my neck tightly. "My 200 million, you bitch, die!" The scene was chaotic. The police rescued me, who was about to be strangled to death, and cast a cold glance at the 3 people. The exciting drama is just beginning. The bright lights in the interrogation room were blinding. "Maya, what do you have to say about your deliberate act of damaging antique porcelain worth 200 million renminbi?" The voice of the police officer taking the statement was calm, devoid of any emotion. I raised my head, my eyes full of fatigue. I was saving myself. Julian and Stella locked me in the cargo hold, cut off the power and oxygen, intending to murder me. As soon as the words fell, the door of the interrogation room was knocked on. Another policeman leaned in. "The other 2 people involved, Julian and Stella, have been brought in and are being questioned in the next room. They are requesting a face-to-face confrontation with Maya." Soon, I was taken to the mediation room. Julian and Stella were already sitting inside, their faces still showing signs of shock. But when they saw me, that panic was quickly replaced by resentment and undisguised smugness. In the corner of the room, the police were exporting data from the communicator. Julian and Stella stole a glance, a flicker of unease in their eyes. Data reading completed, but the technician looked troubled. "The storage chip has some physical damage. Data recovery will take time. Currently, the audio fragments that can be extracted are incomplete." The content deleted from the cloud cannot be recovered. What? I stood up abruptly. Impossible. Maya, how long do you want to frame us for? Julian immediately seized the opportunity, his voice filled with pain and indignation, his acting skills comparable to an actor. It's clear that it was your own negligence at work, entering the cargo hold without reporting it as required, that triggered the security mechanism, and you were locked inside. After Stella and I discovered it, we tried to contact headquarters to open the door as soon as possible. Stella sobbed in cooperation, tears streaming down her face. Sister Maya, we know you're under a lot of pressure. This mission is important. You might just be too nervous. But you can't use your own mistakes to fabricate such lies to harm us. And even destroyed such precious cultural relics. That's 200 million. Her words were all directed towards the angle that I was mentally unstable due to excessive pressure, and even falsely accused my colleagues after making mistakes at work. Fabricate. I laughed angrily, my gaze locked tightly on Julian. Julian, dare you say to your conscience that you didn't log into my intranet account and delete the recordings? Didn't you admit on the walkie-talkie that you used my money to buy Stella a position? Didn't you turn on the gas system to kill me and silence me? A trace of panic flashed across Julian's face, but he quickly regained his composure. Absurd. Utter nonsense. Why would I delete your recordings? How would I know your password? As for buying a position, Stella was able to become a flight attendant because of her own efforts. Maya, I know you've always been jealous that Stella is younger than you, more popular than you, but I didn't expect you to be so psychologically twisted. Stella added fuel to the fire, tearfully, appearing pitiful. Sister Maya, I know you and Julian used to date, but he chose me because we truly love each other. You can't hate because of love and drag everyone down with you. They sang in harmony, turning black into white. My defense seemed so pale and powerless. The police looked at us each holding our own opinions, their brows tightly furrowed. After several hours of repeated questioning and preliminary technical identification, due to the lack of key evidence, it could not be directly proven that Julian and Stella had the intent and act of murder, and their statements at the current stage were actually self-consistent. In the end, the police decided that I was to be criminally detained for the crime of deliberately damaging property, with conclusive evidence, and Julian and Stella were actually released. After completing the procedures, the two walked out of the mediation room under police escort. As they passed in front of the iron-barred gate where I was being held, they deliberately slowed their pace. Julian's face was filled with blatant mockery and the superiority of a victor. He leaned close to the bars and, in a voice only the three of us could hear, said word by word, Maya, didn't expect this, did you? You want to fight me? You're still too green. Stella nestled beside him, her face undisguised with malice and contempt. She looked me up and down in my prison uniform and sneered. Sister Maya, you're really old and ugly. Perfect flight attendant? In your next life. I gripped the iron bars tightly with both hands, trembling with anger and helplessness. Julian looked at me with satisfaction, and continued to stab me in the heart. Oh right, I forgot to tell you, that 200 million, even if you were torn apart and sold piecemeal, you couldn't afford to pay it back. Just wait to rot in jail. Maybe even the death penalty. He deliberately drew out the last syllable, savoring the pain on my face. All of this, you brought it upon yourself. Stella added from the side. Who told you to be so ungrateful and get in our way? The police urged them along. Julian cast a malicious glance, put his arm around Stella, and turned to leave triumphantly. But I smiled a cryptic smile. No, this is just the beginning. You think you've won just because you deleted the recording? Too naive. The news of my detention spread quickly throughout the internet. Shocking scandal. A certain airline's chief purser frantically destroys 200 million worth of national treasures due to a love affair. Psychologically twisted or driven by love to hate. The blackening of flight attendant Maya. Orphan status exposed. Lack of family education leads to extreme personality. The client who nearly strangled me at the airport acted even faster. Through his lawyer, he issued a stern statement demanding that I publicly apologize and compensate for all economic losses, while also holding the airline jointly liable. He also said with great sorrow that these porcelain pieces were irreplaceable cultural treasures, and my actions were a crime against the country and history. This statement ignited public anger. My orphan status was repeatedly mentioned, and some so-called psychologists and education scholars jumped out, talking at length about the negative impact of a missing family on personality formation, implying that I was born with antisocial tendencies. Even the old director of the orphanage where I grew up, the one who cared for me, was not spared. The director's photo was doxed, and the internet was filled with accusations and insults towards the elderly woman. What kind of director raises what kind of madman? Not settling down in old age, raising such a troublemaker, you still have the nerve to be a director? I guess this orphanage isn't a good place either, investigate it. When I saw the news that the director was being cyberbullied because of me, and that people were even harassing her at the orphanage door, my heart ached. That was the person I considered my mother, the person I wanted to protect with all my strength. And in this frenzy of public opinion, Julian and Stella, the two instigators, had transformed into victims. They opened social media accounts and gave exclusive interviews. In front of the camera, the two were dressed appropriately, their expressions haggard but strong. Julian painfully recalled his past with me, implying that I had a paranoid personality and a strong desire to control, and that I had harassed him multiple times after the breakup. Stella, on the other hand, shed tears at just the right moments, playing the role of the current girlfriend who had suffered a lot but remained kind and strong. We don't know why Sister Maya became like this. Stella choked up. Maybe it's because she wanted the title of perfect flight attendant too much and was under too much pressure. Or maybe it's because I'm with Julian and she's never been able to let go. Julian held Stella's hand tightly and, speaking to the camera, said in a painful yet subtly manipulative tone, "Stella and I are also very heartbroken about the damaged artifacts. As crew members, we didn't supervise well, we were also at fault. But no matter what, Maya's behavior is unforgivable, and the law will give a fair verdict." They successfully portrayed themselves as star-crossed lovers, while I was the jealous and mentally twisted ex-girlfriend. The rewards and comments in the live broadcast room were filled with sympathy for them and curses for me. They rode my coattails, their follower count soared, and they even started receiving invitations from variety shows. Meanwhile, in the office of the Cybersecurity Division of the Municipal Public Security Bureau, several police officers were sitting in front of computers, calmly monitoring public opinion on the internet. I was specially arranged to sit to the side, without handcuffs. A young policewoman brought me a cup of warm water, and said in a gentle voice, "Miss Maya, drink some water, don't worry too much." I took the water and thanked her in a low voice. The warm water soothed my tense nerves. I looked down at the screen on my phone, at Julian and Stella's hypocritical performance in the live broadcast room, and a mocking smile curled up at the corners of my lips. "Good acting, but used in the wrong place," I said softly. The leader of the serious crime squad in charge of this case, a middle-aged police officer named Robert, had just finished an international call and walked over to me. He looked at me, his eyes sharp but with a hint of admiration. "Comrade Maya, you've been wronged." I shook my head. "Captain Robert, Director. Don't worry, we've already sent people to secretly protect the old director and the orphanage, and inappropriate comments on the internet will be dealt with according to the law." Captain Robert's tone was steady, with a reassuring power. He sat down opposite me and tapped a file on the table with his finger. "We have investigated the cockpit recording, which clearly recorded the entire conversation of Julian and Stella conspiring to lock you in the cargo hold, cut off the power, delete the recording, and ultimately activate the poison gas system. This is ironclad evidence that they are suspected of intentional homicide. As for the 200 million worth of antique porcelain..." He paused with a meaningful smile. "After a joint appraisal by top cultural relic experts we hired, it has been confirmed that they are high-quality fakes, exquisitely crafted, good enough to pass for genuine, but their actual value is no more than 20,000. These counterfeit goods are tools used by Victor's transnational money laundering group to launder black money through underground auctions and other channels. We've been monitoring this group for a long time. This operation was fortunate to have you." I nodded. Actually, even before the flight schedule, I was no longer just a chief purser. My task this time, ostensibly to escort the porcelain, was actually as a police informant, to ensure that these high-quality fakes were not destroyed by Victor in advance. I just didn't expect Julian and Stella to want to kill me. Although the process was dangerous, it inadvertently allowed these exhibits to be exposed in a different and more effective way in advance, disrupting Victor's subsequent plan to destroy the evidence. The smug Julian in the live broadcast room, in order to create momentum, bribed marketing accounts to exaggerate the promotion. Some insider information began to appear sporadically on the internet. Legal experts analyze that if key evidence is missing, Maya may face the maximum penalty. For a time, the voices supporting Julian and Stella became more and more fervent, and comments mocking and cursing me were everywhere. We believe justice will not be absent. After Julian finished speaking, Stella nodded with red eyes, like a pair of star-crossed lovers who still believed in the light despite being toyed with by fate. Watching them go further and further down that self-inflicted road, I felt no anger, only a kind of mocking amusement at watching a play. You guys perform to your heart's content. The stage has been set for you. The brighter the spotlight, the more terrifying the darkness at the final curtain call. At the same time, the police's actions were proceeding quietly. The monitoring and roundup of Victor's criminal group was entering its final countdown. With the special permission of the police, I had a video call with Director. On the other side of the screen, Director's eyebrows showed an undisguisable weariness and worry. But when she saw me, she immediately revealed a warm, familiar smile. Maya, I'm fine. The orphanage is fine too. The police comrades have arranged everything very well. Those messy voices, I don't care, don't take them to heart. Watching her try to appear calm and reassure me, my nose suddenly twinged with pain. Director, I'm sorry I've implicated you. Silly child, don't talk about implicating me. Director interrupted me, her tone firm. You are the child I raised. I know best what kind of person you are. I believe in you. I will always believe in you. Mom's words were like the most resilient armor, protecting the most vulnerable part of my heart. I knew I wasn't fighting alone. Meanwhile, Julian and Stella were thriving, not only doing live streams but also taking on several short video ads, with astonishing viewership. They even started preparing to publish a book documenting their journey. Greed and vanity had completely blinded them in this false bubble, completely unaware that they were actually standing on the edge of a cliff. Victor, on the other hand, was trying to pressure the airline to get higher compensation. He probably thought that as long as he nailed me to the pillar of shame for destroying hundreds of millions worth of porcelain, his shady dealings could continue to be hidden. Finally, under the unified command of the higher authorities, the moment to close the net arrived. Including Victor, all the core members of the transnational money laundering group were simultaneously controlled by local police in different countries. At the same time, the police directly broke into the live stream and ruthlessly handcuffed Julian and Stella. The smile on Julian's face instantly froze, turning into horror and disbelief. He even tried to struggle, but was neatly pinned down by the police. The live stream camera recorded everything. Their faces were pale and their eyes were flustered. Public opinion completely reversed. It exploded across the internet. Hashtag Julian Stella arrested for suspected intentional homicide. Hashtag 200 million porcelain case, shocking reversal. Victor's money laundering group destroyed. Hashtag Maya is a police informant. Hashtag the real national treasure has been recovered. Hashtag the top 10 trending topics were almost entirely dominated by related keywords. All the previous rumors, slanders, and malicious speculations were vulnerable in the face of ironclad truth, collapsing instantly. The next day, the police held a press conference. Captain Robert personally attended and briefed the media on the case. He showed surveillance recordings, in which Julian and Stella's conversation about trying to kill me was clear, identifiable, and appalling. At the same time, he presented a report proving that the antique porcelain on the plane was actually a high-quality imitation, a tool used by Victor for money laundering. The real cultural relics had been successfully recovered. The authorities also specifically stated, thanks to the cooperation of informant Ms. Maya, the truth was out. All the dirty water previously splashed on me was instantly washed away. I went from being fueled by love to hate, to being a brave undercover agent. I went from being psychologically twisted to calm in the face of danger. I went from being the culprit who destroyed national treasures to a hero who destroyed a money laundering group. As for Julian and Stella, in the face of ironclad evidence, all their sophistry seemed pale and powerless. The charge of intentional homicide was enough to make them spend the rest of their lives behind bars. During the trial, I testified as a witness. Looking at the two in the dock, they no longer had their original glamour. They didn't dare to look at me, and only in their final statement, they begged me incoherently, hoping for forgiveness. Forgiveness? I said to them expressionlessly. The net of heaven is wide, its mesh is loose, yet nothing slips through. As for Victor, he would face even more serious legal trials. 3 months later, I was wearing a new uniform and was awarded Best Flight Attendant. I said into the microphone in a calm voice. Past experiences have taught me that no matter what difficulties we face, holding on to our original intentions, persisting in the truth, and believing in the law, we will surely wait for the day when the clouds clear and the sun shines. The audience burst into warm applause again. This applause was for my rebirth, and also for justice. I knew that I had passed through the darkest tunnel, and ahead, there must be endless light.